Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. This is the Last Word First episode in 2026. The aliens are still recovering from their New Year's party. That's why it looks like it is very quiet. Anywho, sports to talk about. Final week of the NFL regular season. Also, Black Monday happened, so I will get to that after. Week 18, NFL, review, Saturday games. Tampa beat Carolina. However, did not clinch the division, not yet. That will be the Sunday game to decide that. Seattle, 13-3. Honestly, that game was a bit of a snoozer for a bit. So, Seattle with that win. Congrats, you're the 1 seed. So, the 49ers will be playing... Again, I'll get to the bracket later. I'll get to that. Sunday games, Saints, Falcons. Falcons win. That is the game that decided the NFC South. So, with that being said, because the Falcons won, the Panthers win their first division title since 2015, which honestly, I'm for it. Good job. Good job, Carolina. I thought you were going to be like a year away. I thought they would be contending for divisions more in 2026. However, they're a year ahead on the rebuild. I like it. Cleveland beat Cincinnati. Myles Garrett now holds the NFL sack record. Congrats to Myles Garrett. If only he was on a team that actually got him some help. That would be nice. Because Myles Garrett's great, but he's stuck in Cleveland. But of course, he did sign the extension, so part of it is by choice. So, honestly, I would not want to be stuck in Ohio either. But he likes it, apparently. Green Bay against Minnesota. Minnesota won 16-3. Green Bay signed Trevon Diggs after he got cut by Dallas. He started. By the way, I should probably put a quick disclaimer for the 1 o'clock games. I watched very, very, very little of them. I was at the Pats game, and their game was at 4:25. So that being said, I caught very little of it when I was with my friend's tailgate. Also, I will be at the playoff game that they have on Sunday. Because, yes, they gave them the 8 o'clock game on Sunday. So I love the fact that it'll be like 20 degrees. I'll be freezing my balls off. But the Patriots will probably beat the brakes on the Chargers. By the way, I did kind of just give that game away. Also, the Denver game. They won, so they got the 1 seed. So there's that. The Giants beat Dallas. The Giants always ruin their tank. For whatever reason, they decided to ruin their tank. They were the first overall pick 2 weeks ago, and now they're like the 7th pick. Also, Joe Shane is keeping his job. Does Joe Shane have some sort of blackmail on ownership? Does he have some sort of blackmail on John Mara? How does he get to keep his job after letting Daniel Jones walk, letting Saquon walk, paying Daniel Jones that contract, watching Saquon win a Super Bowl, watching Julian Love do well when he left? I'll give him credit on the Brian Burns trade. I'll give him that. But that's the only sort of credit he's getting. Daboll getting fired. So, Daboll gets fired midseason. Joe Shane still has a job for 2026. I don't like it. I honestly don't. So, I'll just end that there. The Jaguars destroyed the Titans. Cam Ward left with an injury, so it was Brandon Allen in most of the games. So, that's how you know they're cooked. Houston beat Indianapolis. Phillip Rivers retired again. Riley Leonard did all right. Alec Pierce was having a really good day until he got ejected for nudging a referee. Honestly, I felt like that was a soft ejection, but a career year for Alec Pierce. He finished with over 1,000 yards. and he's going to get paid in the offseason. I honestly think he's going to get like $20 million. Jets and Bills. The Bills destroyed the Jets with the backups. Also, another thing. I get the Jets season was horrendous. They had no interceptions on defense, barely any turnovers that they got, and yet Aaron Glenn, who's a defensive-minded head coach who finishes 3-14 in his first year, gets to keep his job. I feel like, honestly, with all the news of coaches, I thought Glenn was going to get fired. I think he was put into a spot to fail, especially with them trading Sauce and Quinnen Williams. But honestly, he didn't do anything, I feel like, to be like, oh, this is our guy for next season. But they're instead going to chuck Justin Fields off a bridge, release him, take on, I think, like $20 million in dead cap, which honestly for QB, that isn't horrible. And it's only for 2 years. But at the same time, you do all this, you get the second overall pick, you're probably going to take Dante Moore, you're probably going to ruin Dante Moore because that's what you do as a Jet, or you're going to overpay for a QB, draft a wide receiver, and just have him be a number 2 to Garrett Wilson. I don't understand the logic of the Jets at times. It's so infuriating as a football fan because you see in 2022, there was glimpses there that they could be a playoff team. Then within 3 years, you fire Saleh, you fire the GM, you make the trade for Rodgers that failed miserably. You have all signs of things that could happen, but they just don't. And I know a Jets fan. He's used to the pain, so this is nothing new for him. So there's that. Anywho, other games. Lions and Bears. Lions won. Broncos beat the Chargers. I mentioned that already. The Chargers were resting players, so they get the 1 seed. Raiders beat the Chiefs. They clinched the 1 seed by the Giants. So there was that. Rams beat the Cardinals. Patriots beat the Dolphins convincingly. The Commanders beat the Eagles. By the way, the Eagles could have moved up to a 2 seed with the Bears losing. They lose. They stay as a 3 seed, and they are going to be playing at home. I believe they are playing against San Fran. I believe so. Then the last game of the season, the Steelers win the AFC North because Tyler Loop misses a field goal with very little time left. Rodgers did his thing. Zay Flowers, probably his best game as a pro. 4 receptions, 138 and 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 126 yards on the ground. So, at this point, what do you do if you're Baltimore? Like, you're at a point right now. You possibly are not getting another shot with Lamar. And honestly, I think the relationship with him and Harbaugh has soured. They are discussing his future, but I think, honestly, and I mean this, I think Harbaugh is going to stay, Lamar's going to stay, and that's just a toxic relationship at this point. And I mean, yeah, I know Lamar got injured, and with him getting injured, the entire offense fell apart for about a month. That's what cost them the playoffs. Then he got re-injured in the New England game, and now he's here. They're both going to be here. They're both not going to get fired. That's going to be what happens. Other news NFL-wise, Chris Olave missed the last game because there was a blood clot detected early, so he should be fine. Cole Van Lalen and Quentin Lake both got 3-year extensions from their teams. Van Lalen with the Jags and Lake with the Rams. Take a look at the playoff bracket real quick and do my playoff predictions. I'm going to go AFC, then NFC. AFC, Denver has the bye. Steelers and Texans, I think the Texans are going to win. Jags and Bills. You know what? I know Trevor Lawrence has been playing unreal, but Josh Allen has that playoff experience, and that helps. In fact, a lot of guys on that team does. I'm going to say Buffalo beats Jacksonville. And then the Patriots and the Chargers give me the Patriots. So then the Broncos will play the Bills. The Patriots will play the Texans. I think it'll be a Buffalo and New England AFC championship. And I think Buffalo wins the AFC championship. So they will represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. NFC, Seattle has a first-round bye. The Panthers and Rams. This is at Carolina. They played at Carolina earlier in the year, and Stafford had one of his worst games during the season. I think that's going to light a fire under Stafford, and the Rams are going to win that game. Eagles and the 49ers. I have not been sold on Philly at all this year. The offense is up and down. I'm going to say the 49ers beat the Eagles. Then we have the Bears and Packers. The Packers are way too banged up on defense, and Jordan Love and Malik Willis have both been dealing with injuries. I think the Bears win by 10. So our playoff games are now the Bears and Rams and the Seahawks taking on the 49ers again. This time, I believe the 49ers have it. I believe the 49ers will beat the Seahawks, and the Rams will beat the Bears. So we will have a 49ers and Rams NFC championship, and I believe that it's going to be a nail-biter with the 49ers winning. So it'll be the Bills and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. I was debating Houston, but honestly, with the defense giving up 30 points to Riley Leonard, that made me a little bit less confident because they weren't resting a lot of players as well. They weren't really resting a lot of their guys. I think it was just Nico Collins that it was. But I'm going to say this. Bills, 49ers Super Bowl. And the 49ers will become the second team to win a Super Bowl in their home stadium. Now we head to Black Monday and what coaches were let go. I'm going to begin with the non-surprising ones. Pete Carroll let go from the Raiders. His 1 year there was a disaster. Finished with one of the worst record in the league at 3-14. So he was let go. Kevin Stefanski let go. I believe all the stuff which people are like, oh, he was sabotaging Shador. No. If you have a guy you draft in the third round, he's going to start over the guy that you draft in the fifth round. And you have Flacco to start because veteran leadership. Then when they traded him, they started Gabriel. Gabriel wasn't doing great, so then you made the switch to Sanders. So I feel like he handled the QB situation all right. People are like, oh, he was sabotaged. No, he was not sabotaged. If they went and started, say, Bailey Zappi, who they had, over Shador, then okay. But I feel like he was made to be the scapegoat here because you realize as well, they still have another year on that Deshaun Watson contract. And you look at Cleveland's offense, there's nothing there. You have Judkins be one of your best guys. He gets injured. And then your wide receivers are Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, and Isaiah Bond, and Malachi Corley. Harold Fannin is probably the number one option in that offense, and he had a solid year. He did all right. He's going to take the starting job from Njoku, who I think is honestly done in Cleveland. In the defense was actually pretty good. It's just the offense could not score. I feel like Stefanski is going to get another head coaching job. 100%. I'll be shocked if he does not get another head coaching job. The Falcons clean house completely with the firing of Raheem Morris, their GM and team president. Honestly, I think Stefanski should be the lead candidate for this job. I think if he goes there, the Falcons are contenders to win the AFC South. And that's what depending on what they do in the draft and what they do with the GM and president positions. Tampa Bay, we don't know what's happening in Tampa Bay yet. There has not been any confirmed reports about Todd Bowles staying or him getting fired. There's been nothing on that yet. But honestly, with how Tampa finished their season and the collapse that they've had, I do believe he gets fired. I do think so. If they keep Todd Bowles, which, by the way, at one point, this team was 6-2. They finished 8-9. But at the same time, I would not be surprised if they do keep him. So my prediction is he should be fired, but they're probably going to keep him. And that's going to cost them a potential shot at the division next year. Because Carolina's getting better. The Falcons are going to get better. The Saints, they did okay. They had a good second half. And a lot of their losses, they kept close. They played better than a 6-11 team. Now, we already know the Titans have their opening. The Giants have their opening. The Arizona Cardinals fired Jonathan Gannon. By the way, they also finished 3-14. Tied for the worst record with the Jets and the Raiders. They will have the third pick in this draft. And honestly, this is just what I think. If you go to a 2026 mock draft, if the Jets do not take a QB, but I think they will take a QB, I think Dante Moore goes there. If they're both off the board, I think the guy you take is either Arvell Reese or what's his name from Miami? Francis Mayu guy, or however you pronounce his name. I'm terrible at pronouncing names at the time. I think that's the pick you do. Because I think if they don't take Reese goes number 4 to the Titans, which I would not be shocked. I think he'll go 4, and then the Giants will probably take a receiver, or maybe not, because I think Wandell did a solid enough job to get a contract extension and be the number 2 guy behind Malik Davis. That's how I feel. Cleveland needs a receiver, 100%. Jerry Jeudy as your number 1 receiver is not going to cut it. So there's that. We'll talk more about the draft when it gets closer to it. College football playoffs. We are in the Final Four now. We have Miami taking on Ole Miss. Then we have Indiana in their game, which I think Indiana is going to win against. They're playing Oregon. If they're playing Oregon, I think that's going to be a repeat of what happened earlier this season. I think Indiana's going to win, make their way to the national championship on the 19th, beat up Ole Miss, because I think Ole Miss is beating Miami. But the fact that Ole Miss could probably make a national championship after Lane Kiffin leaving is a bit funny. So, that's all for football. Basketball-wise, we quickly look at the standings, but before we do, Jokic is out a month. I don't know if I mentioned that last week. Josh Giddey's missing a few weeks, and the Trae Young dilemma. He has requested a trade. I think he's going to get traded in the next few weeks to where I think it's going to be the Wizards. It's going to be McCollum to make the money work, plus maybe a younger player, maybe a couple picks. Maybe a pick. I don't think his value is as high as people think it is. And also, the Hawks are barely a play-in team right now. Milwaukee's close. Atlanta's 10th right now. So, by the way, just quickly do the standings now. We have the non-playing teams, 1 through 6. Detroit, Boston, the Knicks, Toronto, Philly, and Orlando. By the way, Orlando, I will say this as well. Anthony Black is having a really good season. I'm an Anthony Black believer. I picked him up in fantasy pretty early on in the season, and he has been probably my second or third best guard behind Pritchard and Nembhard. Like, if I could get that for free, like, hell yeah. Then the playing teams, Miami, Cleveland, Chicago, and Atlanta. Of course, Milwaukee's a game behind them. The Hornets, Nets, Wizards, Pacers. Western Conference, 1 through 6. Thunder, Spurs, Nuggets, Rockets, Lakers, and Wolves, 7 through 10. Suns, Warriors, Blazers, and Memphis. The Clippers are on the outside looking in. Apparently, they're looking to be buyers at the deadline. Derek Jones Jr. just got re-injured again. He just came back from injury. Then he's back injured. Then we have Dallas, Utah, Sacramento, and the Pelicans. Hockey-wise, there's not much after the standings. Just Christian Dvorak signing a 5-year extension worth $5.1 million. I feel like it's an overpay, even though he's having a pretty good season. Detroit leads the Atlantic Division. Then we have Tampa, Montreal, Florida. By the way, Florida's getting a bit healthy again. It's looking like Kachuk's going to be back in the next few weeks. Buffalo, Boston, Toronto, and Ottawa. Metro, Carolina, Islanders, Capitals, Flyers, Penguins, Devils, Rangers, Blue Jackets. Western Conference, the Central Division, still runs through Colorado. They have an 11-point lead right now, so that's pretty good. We have Dallas, Minnesota, Utah, Nashville, St. Louis, Chicago, and Winnipeg. Pacific, you have Vegas, Edmonton, Seattle, LA, Anaheim, San Jose, Calgary, and Vancouver. MLB news, so it's two pretty much signings out of Japan besides the Rendon contract buyout finally getting finalized after over a month of basically feet being dragged. That being the Blue Jays signing Okamoto and the Astros signing Japanese pitcher. I'm probably going to, what's his name? Tatsu Imari or Ima. Honestly, that might be one of the better names. So there's that. It's an expensive deal too, so there's that. And then racing news to conclude. So Steve Phelps is leaving NASCAR at the end of January, which honestly, that's a good move. That's the first good move NASCAR's made in a while. Be gone, Steve Phelps. IndyCar-wise, Prema's set to announce their IndyCar status by the end of the month, which, by the way, there's been rumors that possibly Prema won't be racing in IndyCar in 2026. There's been a lot of financial uncertainty with it, because all we know is that Ilott and Schwartzman have Prema contracts. So if they end up racing in another series, which honestly, Ilott had a good end of the season, so it would be a shame not to see him in IndyCar. But I think if Prema does not race in IndyCar, I think Ilott becomes a contender for that last Dale Coyne seat, which I think him and Hauger as teammates, I do like that. Schwartzman, he had a bit of a rough year besides the Indy 500 pole. That was really the bright spot of his otherwise not great rookie year. But also, he was up there for Rookie of the Year for a while. And he ended up just missing out on it. Because the top fives that Schwartzman had were at, I think they were both at ovals, actually. They were Gateway and at the second Iowa race. But those are the only top 10s he had all season. And also with only one Prema entry being in the winner's circle as well. That certainly puts pressure on, Prema to get that second car better. Because the cars that he was close to, though it wasn't by much, that it was by. Like, he was only 2 points behind Siegel, which Siegel's also on the hot seat of Aaron McLaren. I believe he's gone after the year. Honestly, taking into account some of the possible free agents after the season, I do think that with Penske not having an open seat now for a while, because Newgarden is not leaving, Malukas is not leaving, and McLaughlin's not leaving, for sure. I think Ferrucci or Kyle Collette, if they do well with Foyt this year, could become a contender for that seat that Siegel has right now. Or Rennes VK. I'd love to see Rennes VK at Aaron McLaren. I thought it was going to happen 3 years ago. It wasn't. Also, Christian Rasmussen, who won a race, would be a contender for that seat as well, which I think very highly of him. Even though he's had some, like 2024 wasn't great. 2025, he had the incident at Portland with Connor Daly, but his drive at Milwaukee that he won shows that the talent is there. And the fact that he finished, he actually did all right in the standings too. I think he finished ahead of, this is how good of a year he had. He finished ahead of his teammate, who is a multi-time race winner, and also has finished as high up as second in the championship. If you are outperforming Alex Rossi as a teammate in your first full-time season, I didn't even realize that till now. I got to give him props for that. I think Rasmussen should for sure be in the hunt for that seat if Siegel is replaced, which I think he is going to get replaced after this season. So, with that being said, that's all for this week's edition of The Last Word. This is TJ signing off, and I will see you all next week. Peace.